that both you and Congressman Labiondo before you always put veterans first. And the people here at Veterans Matter live stream broadcast really appreciate that. And I know I do because being with the Legion Riders, being on the forefront of the things that are happening, it just, when you show up, it means so much to our veterans and for our active duty military. We're not going to get the president or the vice president come here, so our congressmen, our senators are the only people to really representing Washington D.C. Now, we have things going on here in South Jersey that you've been very hands-on with, and that is the clinic here in Northfield. Is there any update on the expansion of our clinic?
So just to step back for 1 second, what you said is so true. It isn't the time to speak to veterans, people in general, isn't right before an election. In fact, right before an election is my least favorite time because I don't want people to think I'm anywhere. The proclamations and, commendations, and they can be beautiful. It's what is in that elected official's heart and that veteran's heart, because what really matters isn't the speech that you give on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, any of the days that we celebrate all along the year. What really matters is what are you doing? What kind of legislation is there and what kind of programs are there? We can help these poor veterans to stop committing suicide. What kind of legislation can we do for mental health? What kind of legislation can we do for women who are now involved? What kind of legislation and what kind of programs can we do to help these young men and women find jobs, make sure that they get the best medical care? You remember, I remember, this whole crowd sitting here today with us, our group, remembers when literally veterans would have to go to Philadelphia and sometimes try to stop at a Wawa to go to the bathroom. They were World War II vets.
If they were lucky,
or just urinate in a big bottle because they went together. And that is not the way to treat an American veteran. That made me sick to my stomach. And as long as it took, and I got involved with that, as you know, when I was a state senator. And I said, I don't care. I'm going to help the congressman out with this. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to fight and make as much noise because that was unacceptable what the VA was doing. And fortunately now in Delaware, we have a good guy in the VA. We're building some nice clinics. Cape May is such an improvement. And Northfield's going to be great. That's the good news. The news that came out. And I told you all there was news coming soon. And we just had to wait it out a little. Great place to help people, and diagnostic radiography will be there, as well as to help people that have psychological and other problems. They've promised me would be there, and a host of other things. So we've come along, and you know what? Who really made it happen? It isn't the politicians. It isn't Jeff Van Drew. It isn't Frank Lobiondo. We help. It's you guys. It's you guys by pushing for it, by you guys relating the stories of what happened, by you guys standing up and doing the right things. Some people like some elected officials, other people don't. But everybody, just about everybody, loves our veterans. And if they do, there's something wrong with them. It's you guys that made it happen. The men and the women who have fought, and the men and the women who have stood up and literally protected us. That's what made it happen, and that's what makes me so proud.
What a great time for me to introduce the two individuals to your left. Both of them, my heart has always, since I've gotten involved, advocating for veterans, have been with our Vietnam vets. And immediately to your left and center is United States Marine Corps and Vietnam veteran and a Purple Heart recipient, Marco Polo Smigliani, who's been a guest on our show many times. Marco, welcome to Veterans Matter.
Thank you, Mike.
And to Marco's immediate left, I just been honored to meet today. Also, Vietnam veteran of the United States Army, Purple Heart recipient, Joe Bellardo. Joe, welcome to Veterans Matter.
Michael, thank you for having me on Veterans Matter. This is quite an honor. I love doing this. The people on my right, Marco and Jeff, are fantastic human beings for the veterans world. What they do and what they continue to do, especially here in South Jersey and in the United States, is fantastic. I've known Marco for many, many years, served alongside him in Vietnam, and I love what's happening, and I love what you're doing for veterans. There's not enough of you in New Jersey or in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Just a little reminder, when you speak, you got to be close to the microphone, otherwise people will have a very difficult time hearing you. Marco, you've been involved from day one on this clinic deal.
Okay.
I can remember when I first met Marco, standing up at the Legion for me when we were
Didn't appreciate you, and so I got on top of them. I mean, literally, and so I thank you for all you have done and continue to do. I know people don't know, but you did this on your own, out of your own pocket and everything, and all the things I'm not going to get into right now, the sacrifice you made, and I appreciate people like you even more. He's a congressman. He's a veteran. I'm a veteran. You're not even a veteran, but yet you put yourself out every day, and away from your family and do these things. So thank you for that. I'm not doing this for myself. When I was in Vietnam, I said, if I survive, then when I come home, I'm going to do something to honor my fellow Marines. And as you know, there's 847 of my fellow Marines on that wall in Vietnam. So I got a lot to give back for. And I'm an immigrant. I didn't have the privilege of being born in this great nation of ours. So I'm trying to give back to America because I am so grateful for a great country. It allowed me the dignity to earn a living for me and my family. I mean, I started shining shoes. I worked in a pizza place. I had a pizzeria. I was a pit boss. I had a jitney. I mean, I had a restaurant. I was in the Marine Corps, the Merchant Marine. This is America. It allows you to fulfill your dreams, regardless who you are. I didn't want to go to school. Okay, so I took the world, and that's why I learned with the Merchant Marine, the Marine Corps, and America's been so kind to me. This is why I do it. Now, to get back where we were, I've been here 40 years from Las Vegas. And when I came here, I immediately joined the military Purple Heart, all the World War II guys. And they were my heroes. They were my people I looked up to. And there were a lot of problems then. They were having a difficult time going to Delaware, Philadelphia, as you know. And so we got together and everything. And, little by little, it took us 10 years to get the building we have now in Northfield. Before that, we were in Ventnor, 2,800 square feet. So finally, and there's another guy, his name, Bob McNulty, I'll tell you who it is. He was there with me for 10 years. We fought, we got that. I said, oh, wow, this with Mr. Ingram. As a result of that, everybody got involved from the north, south, east, and west. And we've been fortunate. We had a really great man was Dr. Edelman. He was the visiting floor director. He came down, and that's when we got the Violent. We just finished the one in Rio Grande, and now we have a 30,000 square feet. But the people you're talking about from the South Jersey Veterans Consortium is my committee. The dedication, years and years and years, nobody will ever know. I called Dr. Edelman just for Christmas, and I says, Dr. Edelman, I says, nobody will ever give you awards. Nobody will recognize you for what you did. I says, but I want to tell you that thousands of veterans and their families for years to come will benefit because of what you did in South Jersey. He was our hero, and Mr. Ingram. So we're doing the work here we're trying to do, and as the congressman just said a few minutes ago, this is going to be fantastic. We were going for 25, 30,000 square feet, and that's what we got. And there's been a lot of problems along the way, and it continues to be. But I was just down yesterday, down in Rio Grande, and I spoke to Vince Kane, which I've known over the years, and we're going to work on expanding all the services even more than we already have at that 30. We're going to have it at 30,000 square feet. So it's a new day, as you were talking earlier, Congressman Andrew. It was a horrible. I mean, you had to get a colonoscopy. You took your medicine next day, get it on a bus. This is insanity.
Awful.
So we've made giant leap, but we're still a lot of work to do. And so I thank my for all of this.
A big part.
A real big part.
It's funny. Over the years, if there was something going on for veterans, it didn't matter if it was something with the clinic, if it was our armed services parade, putting on Vet Rock 2013. Marco, you were always took so much responsibility. And I don't know if there's anybody that I've seen, because I'm on the outside looking in most of the time, but I always get these opportunities to work with veterans. And I've never seen anybody love their fellow veterans as much as you have.
Here, here.
I'll tell you, Marco, when you took me to D.C. for that
Yes, I did.
Medal of Honor recipient's funeral.
Well, he was my commanding officer in Vietnam. He was a lieutenant. He went up to Medal of Honor recipient, West Fox, and he's the one that pinned my 3 other Purple Hearts 20 years later and everything in front of 1,100 Marines. And he was just a great, great Marine and everything. And, you know, as an immigrant son, I have a lot to give to America. And, you know, I can't do enough to support America because I realize I was in a merchant Marine. I was making over $1,000 a month in 1966. That was a lot of money. I quit the merchant Marine when I was in Vietnam, and I joined the Marine Corps. I was back in Vietnam 6 months later as a machine gunner making $123 a month. And they thought I was crazy, but probably that was the most defining moment of my life, and which here it is, you know, pay today. And I'm going to let you talk in a minute, Joe, because
No
you
problem.
just said they, but
Keep
one of
going.
the lines I use, very few of us have the privilege to serve our nation in a field of battle. But all of us have the responsibility to serve our nation. You can't just wave the flag on the 4th of July. That's ridiculous. You got to work at this country so it's a good country for your children. What are you going to leave? What's the legacy you're going to leave them?
Left out.
I'm not.
We're going to
Believe
get
me. We're fine.
Congressman, let me ask you, if you were to be speaking at a high school commencement and these young men and women get ready to leave high school, and a lot of them don't want to go to college, what would you say to them about the military today, being up in Washington D.C. and having such a grasp on our armed services? Would you tell our young people today that volunteering for the military is an honor?
I would, and it's part of ensuring. In fact, I even start, you know, what Eagle Scouts are. When these Eagle Scouts and they go in the military, they're one rank slightly higher for being an Eagle Scout, and we're so proud of what they do, and it all comes together, Mike. So what it's about, and Marco told the story so well. It's about this great country where we have freedom, and we've got to guard it preciously. Like President Reagan said, it's only one generation away to lose it. We have to guard it preciously. And it allows us so many different types of opportunities to do, but they're all interrelated. And one of the things that are so important, please forgive me for digressing for a second. It is extremely important that our less of a place if it wasn't for the great United States of America. Understand who these people were. You know, I always, when I talk to young people, I say, you know, Jefferson and Washington and Adams and literally Franklin and all these people, they were amazing, amazing individuals that had this dream of a republic. And like Franklin said, I give you a republic if you can keep it. He knew what was coming. He knew that on average, it's about a couple hundred years where republics start to fail. We are at a time now, and I don't mean to be so serious, but we are at a time where the test is really going to happen, whether this is going to be the most unique republic, continue to be. It is, continue to be. Part of that is the men and women who serve in the military. Without them, we could never be that republic. Without them being willing to sacrifice their lives, their limbs, their blood, we could never be that republic. So it is so important that they understand the greatness of this and the honor of it, and the honor of being in the military, and the honor of being an American. And unfortunately, there are too many others that don't realize that. I was speaking at an event a little while back. It's happened to me a few times, and I was talking about American exceptionalism. You know what that is. Americanism. You know what that is. And a great deal about America and all the things that we have to be thankful for. And Marco just articulated it so beautifully. I mean, imagine this young, probably kind of brash, smart, hardworking, anybody else, because they've been or understand what it's like in other places. So we have got to get that back to our kids. We're taking history out of our schools. They're not learning about this thing. The 1776 project, remember that? I don't know if you know what it was, but it was something that was put in the last administration to get all of this stuff, make sure it was in the curricula, and these kids were learning about Jefferson and freedom and the Declaration of Independence, etc. As soon as the new administration started, I'm trying not to be political, I'm not, but as soon as it started, they removed it. They took it away. Why? Why? Why would you do that? So, yes, I say to those young men and women, be proud of America, be proud to serve in the military, and then our job is to be proud of them and to take care of them.
Congressman, I know you couldn't spend a whole lot of time with us today. My emails and my Facebook Messenger, everything's lighting up here. We have a friend. So he's I won't mention his name. He's active duty military, very concerned. He spent many years in Afghanistan, and in your position as a congressman, are you able to contact the U.S. Embassy to being specific with names of people who are in Afghanistan that need to get out?
Yes, it's been very hard. We're working on about 6 or 7 of them right now, and it's not easy. Again, quite frankly, a system wasn't set up. We knew we were going to do this. This wasn't like things we hear and we know are terrible that you may not hear about. Bad things are happening already, and it shouldn't. It is very sad. And by the way, so can South Korea really believe in the U.S. when they see things like this? Can Taiwan really believe? Can Israel wonder maybe that we weren't the U.S. that we were because of we're dealing with everything out of weakness? China has told us. China has told our ambassadors, you are a weak nation. They've been that blunt that they literally say that. I don't know if people realize that. That is absolute truth. They're laughing at us. We're dealing with them on our knees now, which is no way for America. America's never on its knee. It's not on its knee when it pledges allegiance to the flag. It doesn't turn its back to the flag, and it's not on its knee when it deals with other countries. We are the best. We are the strongest nation in the world, period.
I just want to add something.
Go ahead.
When those ambassadors and those people from China said that to our ambassador, I would have said, can't say it, okay. You SOB, you had the audacity, a country that killed 70 million of your own people, you're going to preach to me, a republic? They just sat there like a bunch of lambs. I would have pulled their eyes out, those SOBs. And one other thing that I say, you talk to the congressman about America. When our young people in this country don't go serve our nation anymore, that's when America's finished. When they're afraid to go serve because what is happening. That's how serious this is. And the congressman, I'm surprised, he's being straight out. I mean, he's not pulling punches. We are in a really bad place right now. And if we don't change very, very soon, we're going to be our children, our grandchildren are going to have a lot of difficulties. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm listening. I love it.
Yeah. And you know what? We owe it to our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And shame on us, damn it, if we can't straighten this out. And we're not going to let it happen.
Congressman, I thank you so much for taking the time
My
out
honor.
to be here. You're welcome to stay with us if you have the time. If not, I just
hope you do.
Appreciate so much.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
And it was my pleasure, and it's always my honor to be with you guys. I mean that. And anything I can do, you always know that too.
Well, there is. Tom Dixon asked me to extend an invitation to you for October 10th. It's a Sunday. We're having our 21st annual Ride for the Vets. I got some information I'll pass on to
You get it to my
Chris.
office? Okay.
Yeah. And hopefully you'll be in town for that.
If I'm in town, I'm there, man. You know I'm always there. You guys can't get rid of me. I'm like, oh, God, he's back again. Gee.
Love to see you.
Can we get rid of this Van Drew guy? No, you know, if I can be there, I will be there. Okay.
Thank you very
I love
much.
you guys.
Thank you.
You're the real thing.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
I'm going over to actually visit a friend of mine I haven't seen in ages.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Congressman
Thank you, Congressman.
Jeff Van Drew. Thank you very much, Congressman. Well, as we move along here, I just wanted to, before 4 p.m., our call-in line is 609-798-4475. And please, if you don't get on right away, just please hold. We can only take one call at a time, so bear with us. Marco, first, thank you so much for bringing our guests on today.
It is a privilege to be sitting next to this man.
so special.
Wait till he starts talking. You talk about American hero. He exemplifies and defines what that means.
You know,
Not just for his exploits, what he did in Vietnam, but all of our dead Marines, my Marines, 1-9 that he carried.
well, you know, when Joe Bellardo sent me his bio, you know,
A little
the
long.
maze. But Joe, I'm going to take you back a little bit before you were in the military. I would take you back, like I was talking to the congressman, when you were still in high school, you were getting out. What made you decide to go in the military?
Well, what happened? I come from a military family. My father was General Patton's platoon leader in Germany. All my uncles served in the military. My great uncles served in the military. So all we heard about was war. You know, World War II, Korea. My cousins served in, and it was. I always wanted to join, but what happened was I was going to college. I was going to a drafting school at NJIT, and I got an early out. I finished the course early, and I wanted to join the Marines with my friend John Paulus and a couple other guys. And my father goes, no. You're going to get drafted. So I said, okay. So the following month, I went out and bought a new car. That night I came home, and there was my draft notice. My father took the car, 66 Chevy Impala Super Sport. Yeah, he just changed it from 2-door to 4-door and manual shift. And so off I went, and I went to Texas, and I trained on rockets. And all of a sudden, 24 of us got sent to Vietnam. And I got put on a weapon in Vietnam called a Duster. It's a tank-like weapon with 2 barrels. And amazingly, my combat unit was a permanent attachment to the Marine Corps because of our firepower. So the only people I really know, if you want to know anything south of LBI, you got to meet Marco Polo.
Joe, let me
So I
ask you,
reached out.
where were you raised at?
I was born in Plainfield, New Jersey, and when I was young, we moved to South Plainfield. My father worked at a steel factory there. He wanted to be 5 miles closer.
Well, how did
Giant
you do,
Italian family.
Where did you do your basic training?
Fort Hood, Texas, the home of Elvis Presley.
Okay, because most people in New Jersey
Went to
are
Fort Dix.
Yeah.
Went to Fort Dix. 2 days later, I was in Texas. I had a Marine DI, who was a transferee, Sergeant Dillard, and I was the first sergeant's pet. I made him an Italian garden, and that's the truth. And when they sent 24 of us over to Vietnam, we were shocked. We thought we were shooting rockets, and here I end up on this tank-like weapon in the Marine Corps. And I said, this is amazing. And part of my job was firefights, search and destroys, convoys, body recovery was 50% of our job. And the first person I ever picked up was from 1-9. His name was James. And the last person I picked up was about a week, 10 days before I came home, was from 1-9, and his name was Jimmy. It was a true story. And he told me he didn't know my name, my call sign was the Grim Reaper. So he asked me, "What's your name?" I tell him. No one knew our names. We were 5 on a tank. And he goes, "Promise me, like you've always done for the last year, you'll help a veteran." So when I got out, I got married as soon as I came home to my fiancée, Nancy Payton. Still married to her. Have 3 wonderful children, 4 fantastic grandchildren. And I've devoted most of my life, I say a good portion of it, to helping veterans. We started the first Agent Orange Commission with a woman named Rena Kopachensky. And we've been doing it ever since. And I love doing it. It's if you stop helping a veteran and don't push Uncle Sam, there will be no help for veterans. So with the help of many of these inside group of people we had, we started PTSD. There was no such thing as PTSD. Pushed it into the VA systems up at East Orange and Lions Hospital and into New York. And then we started what was called the first rap group, where guys could talk as groups. And my little group from my Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 233, started it. And we just kept working and working on veterans and kept, pushing the government and pushing the hospitals to learn more about us and not think we were some wacky Vietnam vets as the news made us look like.
To be, yeah.
Yeah, it made us really look like something was wrong with us. Every veteran who saw combat has an issue. I don't care how they say they don't. If you saw enough combat, you have an issue. Some people, it only takes 1 bullet flying over their head. Some take one artillery shell. For Marco and I, it took a couple hundred artillery shells and a couple thousand bullets. And yet we're still consider ourselves sane and dedicated to the veterans world. And you have to do this, and yet at the same time, you have to dedicate yourself to your family and your loved ones. A lot of times I get sidetracked and don't forget about them, but I get overwhelmed. And my wife keeps saying, "Please shut that phone off." So I make sure it's off here because the calls are endless. And I love them. And I do this nationwide. We have my own combat team. We have started our own association, a couple thousand members. So if they need a claim, who writes their claim? Me. I have an officer sign it, and we put them in for whatever they need. I am now working on a claim for my captain, retired colonel.
Joe, when you were in, you were there during the Tet Offensive.
I was there during the Tet Offensive.
Yeah, but you were the Tet Offensive when the American forces actually destroyed the Viet Cong at the time. But when that was over, there really was no longer.
There were still battles. I'll give you, for instance, the Tet Offensive, when it started, it was a ceasefire. It's their holiday. It's like their New Year's, their Christmas. So everybody was at ease. No one was going to shoot at anybody. And on January 13th, 1968, India Company, 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines, got hit on a convoy going from a place called Camp Carroll to Kalu. I was rear security, and 19 of them were killed in 7 minutes. Right after that, they hit the famous base of Quezon, the 70-day siege. Excuse me. Then they tried to overrun Camp Carroll on the 24th of January. Then all hell broke loose throughout Vietnam. And everybody dug in their heels, and the newspaper had it like the North Vietnamese enemy was winning. No.
Joe, how many cities they take over? I don't remember.
27.
This is the rest of the stories Paul Harvey used to say. That's true. During a ceasefire, they attacked, and they took over 27 cities. The rest of the story is what they don't tell you. What an accomplishment on the behalf of the American soldiers, Marine, and everyone serving in Vietnam. In a couple of months, they took everything back. They killed over close to 100,000 Vietnamese army and 50,000 Viet Cong. Never in the history of a war was that. And Cronkite gets on TV, says, "Well, we can't win this." What the hell are you talking about? Look what we just accomplished.
Walter Cronkite was the turning point of the war. Everybody thought he was the God Almighty newscaster, and anything Walter said was gospel. Walter was in country for 4 days.
He put a bayonet in our back. This
Right?
big.
He put a bayonet in our back, and McNamara put the harpoon through our hearts. For instance, I served at Quezon. Khe Sanh is the most publicized combat base in Vietnam history. We lost hundreds upon hundreds of Marines there. My job there was body recovery and combat. And all of a sudden, McNamara and whoever else was at the White House said, we are going to abandon Khe Sanh. And we all looked at, what do you mean? We're here, we're fighting, we're not losing. There was between 15 and 25,000 dead enemy soldiers in the valley. The odor was unbelievable. The road there was called the Road of Bones. That's what it looked like. And now all of a sudden they said we got to abandon it. So now it's my job. I'm an acting NC. I was an NCO, a non-commissioned officer. I'm like an acting lieutenant for 44 guys. And it's our job to take Khe Sanh apart. I was in charge of the north perimeter. So we took it apart. Every sandbag had to be emptied. The runway, which was what they call PCB, had to be pulled apart. Any bunker we couldn't get apart, I blew up with plastic explosives, C4. And everybody left Khe Sanh. Supposedly the last day was July 5th, 1968. But for some reason, Colonel Kelly, who was in charge of the base, left 13 of us there. 2 dusters, where my weapon was called, and a platoon of Marines. And on the 13th of July, I called him, and I called my captain, and I said, I'm still here. They said, why didn't you leave? We didn't have orders to leave yet, sir. So the Marines have all my photos, I had free developing from Kodak, of the NVA soldiers walking on the base as we pull out.
Joe, let me ask you a question, because in your bio here, you were
Yes.
in Khe Sanh
Yes,
at the end of the...
at the very end. I'm the last person to leave. My time.
All the years I've been, whether it was Rolling Thunder or the Legion Riders, and we had a couple veterans, Vietnam vets, that fought at Khe Sanh. It was supposed to be one of the most vicious.
It's besides being vicious, you had Khe Sanh base itself, which had a runway on it, and the runway was used for special black, because the enemy would always try to take these hills, and they fought there for months. So we would try to abandon them, or not abandon them, get them off the hills by using CH-46 helicopters, which were called the Purple Foxes. If you go to Marine Corps Museum, the Purple Fox helicopters in the museum. And if I do a shout out for my friend Sal Siri, he was the door gunner and crew chief on that helicopter. 440 combat missions. Unheard of. Unheard of. So, you see this, and it broke our heart. And my heart is broken when I think not just how we left Vietnam, but how we abandoned Khe Sanh, and now we're abandoning Afghanistan. The same scenario of bad judgment. It's not that we would ever keep Khe Sanh forever, but when you leave in an orderly fashion. The enemy knew we were leaving because Kissinger would tell them the day we were leaving, not just McNamara. He would tell the North when we were leaving. So when I was there, the biggest bombardment at Khe Sanh, just picture getting shot at by one artillery shell. The most I got shot at was 950-something in one afternoon. And you don't know being shot at with a rifle is one thing. Being shot at with an RPG is another thing,
It's
which
terrifying.
I've been hit by all of those. I've had all kinds of holes.
Artillery and RPGs are terrifying.
But the artillery is the unseen enemy. All you hear is the drone of a screaming woman coming in at you, and the bombardment, and then the aftermath when you do body recovery is picking up the pieces. So it's unbelievable. And then when you hear we're going to abandon it, and then here it is, 50-something years later, and I hear the president saying we're abandoning Afghanistan and leaving our equipment there.
That sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. Just like Vietnam, we gave it to the South, yeah, and the South couldn't hold off the enemy, and we gave our equipment to the Afghanistans, and they gave it up in 24 hours.
But I just want to say there's a big difference, okay? I called Joe the other day, and I says, Joe, I'm an elementary student of Vietnam. I says, all the war, but I know pretty well. There is no comparison because, first of all, it's the leadership that is the problem. It's in Washington. In Vietnam, not because of Vietnam, but I'm not a revisionist, I'll tell you the way it is. Just in the one battle that Joe was involved in Khe Sanh, we killed close to 50,000, right? Viet Cong, and 100,000 North Vietnamese Army, NVA. Joe, did the NVA run?
The NVA were tough people
They stood there and fought to the death. These guys were tough.
left. And you're saying, am I going to survive this? And if it wasn't for fellow Marines coming to our aid and fellow Army guys, my friend John Holstenbach and my friend Roger Blentlinger, I probably wouldn't be here today. And I tell everybody, if it wasn't for the Air Force, I'd have been dead a long time ago.
Absolutely.
They
Here's
saved
the thing
us.
now. In 1973, January 27th. No, there's a
Somewhere around there.
March 27th,
March.
1973. We signed a peace treaty in France, the peace accord in France, okay, with that jackass McNamara and
Jap.
Job. And
It was the NVA general.
he was the architect of the war. So they signed a peace treaty and said, if you go back and attack South Vietnam, we're going to come to your rescue, we're going to bomb. We were out of Vietnam for 2 years when they, what you see that happened in Vietnam with this helicopter, that was at the embassy. The people that worked there, some Americans who were there, there was no American soldiers there. And the American people think, oh my God, they took off. What, 500,000 Americans left? We defeated the enemy in the field of battle, and we lost it at Washington and Paris. And I'm not a revision. You read the history.
General Giap, it's Giap, Jap they call him.
What did he say? Tell him.
In his, we call memoirs, he said if we had bombed Hanoi, which we never did, or bombed it for another 2 weeks, they would have capitulated and given up the war.
You know why he stayed? Because there were 300,000 Americans every weekend in Washington demonstrating against us to a fight for our life, and they were supporting the NVA and the Vietnamese. Think about that. Americans supporting the enemy with a Jane Fonda sitting on top of that thing. And we're over there for our very lives. That's why they won the war. They won it in a table, not in a battlefield. And if I'm lying, Joe, you call me right to my face. Tell me.
Well,
No, it's you know, you can't compare wars upon wars. Killing is killing, war is war. You know, civilians die, military people die on both sides. They all had mothers and fathers. But what happens now is the people we're fighting now are, what was the word, zealous? They are fanatics, and their way of life is something that we're not used to, and it goes back as far as the Crusades. The Knights Templar fought them 2,000 years ago with the same results. If you don't like us, we behead you. So it's happening with the poor people over there, just like happened in Vietnam. When Vietnam fell in the late 70s, mid-70s, the people that they didn't like, they put in re-education camps, which you never hear about. My friend Hung Simon, who's married to a lawyer, an American lawyer in North Brunswick, her brother was in an internment camp, a re-education camp, for 18 years.
You got a lot to learn.
Yeah, a lot to learn. Now he lives in California. The Catholic Charities and Jewish war vets got him out.
right.
So what happens here, they put him in prison. During the Battle of Way City in January and February of 1968, all the dignitaries were at their homes. It's a beautiful town, colleges and everything, an ancestral town. They captured all the men and buried almost 5,000 of them alive in their front yards.
Men, women, and children.
Mainly men. And you don't hear about that in your history books. But now here's the similarity. Here we have Afghanistan. What are the troops doing to their Afghans? Shooting them. I get emails from every soldier there ever was, and I'm already getting emails, visual emails, which really upset me, of them getting shot. It was eight civilians that were military. They lined them up, knelt them down, and shot them in the head. And then about 100 of them shot them about 200 more times. And this is the type of rationale we're dealing with. And now you say we're getting people coming here, by the thousands, landing in McGuire and other Air Force bases with the so-called visas.
Who are these people?
Hold on. And they're mass producing these visas to get to us. Don't you think some of them are Al-Qaeda?
Wow.
Have to be. They're that smart. They're not that dumb. They have computers. They can make a visa.
Thousands behind. Remember 444 days with Iran? We already have, 55 people. Now, we have hundreds, if not thousands of Americans. They're going to hold them. People have no idea the tragedy. This is a tragedy on so many different levels. we're going to see things we've never seen before, unfortunately.
Now, I'm not going to use any names because I know some people who contacted me. If you have the public look up Pineapple Express, not the movie, not the radio show, not the song, and look up Pineapple Express Afghanistan, you will see that between 400 and 600 retired Green Beret and Navy SEALs are there as snipers protecting America.
Civilians.
And
Like myself and Joe.
If they get killed, there is no record of them getting killed.
That's
And
the caliber
a fact.
individual we have in this country.
That's a fact. The government knows they're there. Look up Pineapple Express. You'll see the generals talking about it, and they left Tuesday night. I
And
know
yet,
one of them personally.
Our representatives are doing nothing.
All volunteers. Yeah, so America, look up Pineapple Express, Afghanistan, and you'll be shocked.
You and I should be on TV telling the history. No, I'm not being smart, Alec, because we know the true story. Most of the people don't know the true story, unfortunately.
Now, what happens is, with the other wars, even with Vietnam, after it was over, we had the problem of prisoners of war, of which we would not do what's called détente with them because of the prisoners of war. And the big pusher against doing détente was Rolling Thunder. The guys who started Rolling Thunder were friends of mine, and they would push the government for no détente. Once we got détente with them, right, all of a sudden we're doing trade with them, right? We started a thing called the Veterans Initiative through Vietnam Veterans of America, and we exchanged where their soldiers' remains were and where our soldiers' remains were. So we would send groups there. It was started by a guy named Bill Jordan, who was one of my captains, and it's called Silhai out of Hawaii. And they go there and to these now GPS locations, and they dig up American remains, and we give them their dead where we killed them. I provided them a map of the DMZ for all the firefights I was in and all the enemy we killed. I was in 27 firefights. So I had marked on my map on the DMZ wherever we had a firefight. And I supplied it to the North Vietnamese government many, many years ago when we started this. And they always wanted me to come back. I just can't fly that far, And so, things they do. But you won't have détente with Afghanistan. It just doesn't work that way. They don't have nothing for us to trade. Look at Vietnam. Everything you buy now is from Vietnam. Same with Japan. Japan couldn't get into our country years ago, even after détente, until they started making shirts say "Made in USA," USA, Japan, and that's how it started. So now we recognize Vietnam. Vietnam is the most gorgeous place you ever want to go to. It is breathtaking. Go to the beach in Nha Trang and you'll think Hawaii doesn't even compare to the beach in Nha Trang. But you had Chiquita banana there, Dole's pineapple there. Michelin Tire was their biggest rubber plantation. That's why France wanted it back. Right? Eisenhower
Bay.
pushed it. Cameron Bay, natural seaports.
Yeah.
I tell everybody I do these shows about Vietnam for the last 40 years, and I show them a map of New Jersey. And I see Vietnam is 5 times bigger, but the same basic shape.
Yep.
And all the seaports are in the same geographical locations. Mountains in the north, highland in the center, delta in the south. So women have no rights. So what's going to happen to all these poor women who thought they were getting rights under the new regime, right? They're going to be beheaded or stoned to death in public for taking off their face mask. It's horrifying to think what we did to the civilians there, not just our soldiers, not just what the cost it's going to cost us to go back there in 5 years or less and retake these bases. People don't think of that. They think, we're gone. We're not gone from there.
You know what a successful Taliban is? He has a machine gun and he has an AK-47. That's a successful man there. And I'm not being smart. I mean, that's what they respect.
If we knew we were leaving our Humvees behind, why didn't they booby trap them?
Blow them up.
Well, normally, that's what we normally do.
If we lost a tank in combat, we had these incendiary grenades we'd lay all over the tank just to burn them up.
$85 million with our equipment there. I'm talking about things.
It's awful.
China right now is very happy. They're just taking everything apart and they're going to see.
Michael, we talk about freedom, and this will hit Marco on the home front. In Vietnam, we spell freedom with the first names of the friends we lost. F was for Frank. R was for Ralph. E was for Eddie. E was for Ernie. D was for David. And so on. Till you finally hit M for Michael. And that's how we spell freedom. At the cost of our friends' lives. Nothing else.
If you have a question or something you'd like to say to one of our guests, feel free to call us. Our lines are open. It's 609-798-4475. That's 609-798-4475. You know, Joe, I know you were very involved with the Agent Orange issues.
Yes.
You know, it's unbelievable. There's over 58,000 names on the wall in D.C.
Right. But
300,000 Vietnam veterans have died from the effects of Agent Orange.
Well, there was more than just Agent Orange. A lot of it was made right here in Dow Chemical in Edison. And so it was sprayed. All the bases, if you ever saw a combat base, nothing grew on it. It was just dirt. It was sprayed. We'd spray it all the time. We didn't think of nothing of it. The empty drums we used to rinse out in the river and use for drinking water. When we made water, my friend Roger Blantleringer, God rest his soul, made water for the DMZ at Camp Carroll. We'd pump it up in trucks, and he'd run around like you have a swimming pool with chlorine and iodine in it. He'd make a whirlpool, skim off the bugs, skim off the dead animals, the field mice and things like that, or body parts, put more iodine in it, and then press the edge of the rubber vat down to skim the oil off, which was the residue from the oranges and all the other colors. And I tell people, you didn't have to be sprayed to be poisoned. You just had to drink the water. Right. So what happens is when we started this woman, I bumped this woman named Rena Kopachensky and her husband years ago, and we started the movement. We had a doctor named Dr. Kahn from Rutgers, helped us do the studies, and we ended up eventually working at a Freehold Medical Center out of their wellness clinic, and we weren't going anywhere. We tried to do a class action lawsuit, went nowhere at all, until we finally met Admiral Zumwalt from the Navy. Admiral Zumwalt's son was a sprayer, and he was dying, and one of the guys in our club did work for Channel 13 back then, PBS, and they did a documentary on his son, and he passed the bill through Congress.
his son died from
That
Agent
was
Orange.
1991. was the
19,
first
no,
Agent
no,
Orange.
no.
No.
1982 was when we did the lawsuit.
The Admiral's son.
I started it.
Yeah.
I started in 74 or 5 with the movement, and we did it for years and was going nowhere till Zumwalt came along in about 1980. It took a couple years. We did a lawsuit. It was 82 or 84. $180 million was put in an account. Was gone in the first year, given out to veterans and their families who were already dying. We came up with 50 ailments. Back then it was only 40, of which almost all of them are cancer. Then you have diabetes, Parkinson's disease, heart issues. I never say it right. Ischemic heart disease. All these different things that a veteran can do a claim with, and it's stored in your fat and in your liver cells. Most of us who have high concentrations of Agent Orange have fatty livers and high enzymes. So, you don't drink because, God forbid, you have a sore side if you have a drink. So you don't drink. Yep. And so we had the movement. We got the law passed. And then what happened, New Jersey started the first Agent Orange movement. A guy named Bill Lewis from our little club went to work. And then the authority, and I my hat's off to him, lives down here in Cape May, is Paul Sutton. Paul Sutton worked for DeMava. Paul Sutton is the advocate for Agent Orange. He is the #1 representative.
We got a call coming in.
Yeah, we got a call in. Name, rank, and serial number, please. Hello, caller. Can you hear us? It looks like the call came through the studio. No, that doesn't. That looks like the studio line. So I would drop that. Go ahead, Joe.
All right. So I tell everybody, the authority now in New Jersey is Paul Sutton on Agent Orange. He's learned more about it and helped more veterans through the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs than anybody I know, and he still does.
And guess who
and he's a Marine.
And guess who
You know,
Mike's secretary was in all of these organizations.
was Paul a Vietnam vet?
Oh yeah, Marine.
He did 2 tours of
He
Vietnam.
moved the Blue Water Navy vets from the, and it's been a fight since.
They're back on. Blue Water vets. the Navy keeps explicit logs of what they did and where their boats were, because they were doing what we call GPS now, was called Loran back then. So they knew where the boats were all the time. So they could tell the proximity they were from the coast and the out of the rivers into the ocean, which was pumped into their drinking water systems. Then you had the brown water navy, the guys on the gunships who went up the river on these silly boats, back and forth on the Mekong Delta, or what was called the Quaviette, which was way up north on the DMZ. And they would go back and forth. So there was a lot of them inland, and it took 30 years for it to get passed. And they finally passed it, but the guy has to go through his military records, which Uncle Sam is so negligent in getting to you. They have to fill out these forms called VA Form 180. If they're lucky, they'll get something, right? So we've been, and then they say, "Oh, your records were burned." That's baloney. Everything was microfished or fished, whatever they call it. So there is some kind of record, and so now they're getting treated for something they should have been treated for back when the Agent Orange movement first kicked in. But it's taken years, and now they added 3 new diseases.
15 presumptive diseases.
There's 15,
yeah.
51, 53 now, I think, with the new 3.
Here's the sad part, though. There were 2,900,000 of us in country from 61 to 75, okay? Of that 2,900,000, how many are left, Joe?
Half of them.
Even less than that. Okay? So that means their families, because it was not recognized at that time, didn't get anything. We came home from a war to a war with the American people and the VA, the Veterans Administration. Now we have, an 85% approval with the American people. We're still fighting with the VA.
Now here's the other thing that happens. Many, many veterans from the Vietnam, World War II, or Korea get a veteran's disability compensation payment. It's called a CMP. And you have a list of ailments from Agent Orange. We'll say from heart disease to 39 different types of cancer. You get COVID. Now, I get a pension. Marco gets a pension. If I die from one of the diseases listed on there, right, my wife gets approximately 40% of my pension. You go to the hospital, and you have heart condition, and they put you on a ventilator because you have COVID. You don't die from that heart condition. You die from COVID. Your wife loses your pension.
Okay, can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah.
You have to be, if you don't have that pension for 10 years, she loses it. You have to have it for
death certificate.
You have to have it for 11 years for her to get your pension. Below that, excuse my expression, she's screwed.
Well, I'll tell you, it's people.
And it has happened, according to my emails, about 100,000 veterans nationwide. And they won't change the death certificates because there's money being made with COVID.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
So you hear all these little things behind the scenes that we work on as veterans groups, on changing things, but you can't change the death certificate. Just like getting Purple Hearts for people. Now, the Purple Heart is the oldest medal in history. George Washington made the medal. Right? It was started with a little purple piece of cloth that said Merit, Legion of Merit. Then McNamara made it a Purple Heart, and a woman designed it, people. A woman designed the Purple Heart in 1932. Gave it to some World War I veterans, 132 of them. And now everybody wears the same medal, whether you're killed or wounded in action. Marco and I, unfortunately, have several of them, and have the residual effects from them. So it's the oldest medal. Now, I wear my Purple Heart hat all over the place in a shirt. The young Americas have no clue what it is. And I say, I have no clue. And then regressing even further, we did a show, and I won't name the school. It's in Central Jersey, in the Flemington area, I have to say it. And we had World War II veterans there. And it was just an assembly. We did a nice program, nothing warlike, nothing talk about death, just what it was like. And they had Nazi flags. And the kids are going, they're 6th grade. What are they? We're like, what do you mean? You don't know what this is? I said, no. And then we asked the principal. It won't be taught.
No. And
it won't even be spoken about. It'll be stifled.
I just want to go back to what you said a moment ago because it speaks to the kind of country we live in. It went right over your head because you're not a veteran. You were in Vietnam, and that's not disrespect to you. But George Washington was the man that the first time an enlisted man was awarded a medal. Before, you had to be either a duke or a count or blah, 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 that. But for the first time, think about that. Guys like Joe and I that actually fought in the field of battle were recognized for our service. Only in America, we started here. There's so much history. I mean, I never had an opportunity.
We are the free country.
I'm learning a lot today because, by me, I learn a lot. Sitting here, Joe, we should be doing a program together. No, I mean TV, because there's so much misinformation and ignorance out there. I'm not saying people are stupid, but they don't know any of the stuff we're
The officers had to get up. If they saw that little patch on the soldier's chest, the officers had to get up and salute them, right? Because they knew they gave this sacrifice of being wounded or losing a limb or whatever.
When we go to Washington, generals will salute me, not because of Marco, but because of 1-9, because they know there's 800 out of respect.
Fellas, I'm going to regress a little bit to 1-9.
Go ahead.
Now, here I am on a tank-like weapon that fired 240 cannon shells a minute, 2 machine guns, 300 hand grenades, 10,000 rounds of M16, you name it. One tank, one of these things called the Duster, was equivalent to 1,000 Marines, infantrymen. That's the firepower it had.
And is that what the book is about, Joe?
No. Well, we don't talk about it. The book is my diary.
Joe gave me a book that he wrote called Dusterman, Vietnam.
Thank you.
Story of the last great gunfighters. And
the Marines called us.
on the front
Antos.
is what you're talking about.
No, it's not an Antos. That's a Duster.
No, yeah, but I'm saying
The other one,
the
an
Antos.
Antos. Right?
Well, I never heard that.
No one ever saw it.
before
There was only 180 of us in Vietnam,
But do you remember when the tanks and Life magazine would carry all the wounded dead?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Right there.
Am I somewhere?
Oh,
I didn't
boy.
even know I was on a camera. Where am I? Hello, camera. Right. The
I can't wait. I love reading about Vietnam.
but when we went out with anything that said 1-9, they had 3 of them: 1-9, 2-9, and 3-9 were the Marine units. I took the inside of my Duster and cut out all the extra trays, because it's hollow inside, all the ammo's inside. Cut out all the trays to carry extra ammo, because when you were with 1-9 or one of the 9s, you knew something bad was going to happen. Something very bad. How was he doing? Oh, my God.
That's good.
That's good? Thank you. Thank you for doing that. But it's my it's my diary. No stories from memory. It's about 70% of the diary. My friend who's a military minister published it for me. My wife Nancy was the editor, and it's about 70% of what was in my diary. We cut it down because it was a little too crazy.
See, today you're getting a true story of Vietnam.
And then I do shows about Vietnam. I've done 3 weeks ago. I did my 252nd Vietnam presentation. I did it for Marco down here at the school.
Yeah, we
2
did
years
it.
ago.
We did it at ACIT, Atlantic College of Technology.
But it's you can compare wars because of death and atrocities and all this other crazy stuff, but to leave what we left behind in Afghanistan for the enemy to have, we did the same thing basically in Vietnam, but this nowadays is on the tenders, the headgear, the radio communications, the laser-sighted rifles. We were Kentucky windage.
We had sea rats from World War II, Joe.
Oh, they were delicious.
From World War II, we had sea rats.
Right, delicious. And,
Joe, I see where you were in this Fox Network history program, Vietnam War.
yeah, I
with
did actually
Oliver.
totally 3 documentaries. One in New York for New York City. I don't know how they chose me as a New York veteran for some college program. And I did 2 with the History Channel. It was very interesting to do, but with my regret, they changed what you answer. Yeah, I was furious. They interviewed me for 4 hours about Khe Sanh and this famous battle that no one knew existed. And then they said, what happens when one of your friends dies in one of the interviews? I said, you want to go out and hunt the enemy. So in the interview, they go, oh, Joe, this is what Joe Bellardo thinks about the enemy. Oh, he wants to go out and hunt him. And that's all there was. You know, after 4 hours of interview. And the comment I got was, well, you made history forever. You know, but it was interesting to do. You know, Ollie North actually was a Marine who actually rode on our Dusters.
Well, when we did Vet Rock
Yeah.
2013, Oliver North gave me these for our show to give out. But if you've never have them, I'd like you to.
I have them. Yes, I had them. Thank you. Thank you.
And also, Marco, you
I'll
probably
take
have
them.
this.
Sure.
When we did the Warfighter Sports banquet and
Yes.
Doc Ballard
Yep,
was
yep.
here, they're all autographed.
All autograph. Wow.
Yeah.
See, my heroes are medics and corpsmen.
Yep.
And you know, I was trained. I had 5 days training by my medic. Armies or medic, and a corpsman named Larry Youth. He died on Valentine's Day, 1968, on Valentine's Ridge outside of a place called Calou. And about 5 years ago, I got to talk to his daughter that he never really saw. She was an infant, and she wanted to know how her father died. So I sent her all kinds of pictures of where it was, what we did with him, how we recovered him, and it was an honor. And then a little bit about my combat association called Duster Squads and Searchlights. We sent back for closure 24 Gold Star mothers to Vietnam free. Free. With the soldier or Marine that fought alongside their son when he died. And I tell everybody, our wall is built. I hope Susan's listening to me. Our wall in Washington is built because of a woman named Emma Jean Cupp. She got together with Jan Scruggs, went before Congress. She was the Gold Star Mother president at that time, and said, you will build this wall. And the wall was designed by a Vietnamese person. Same with our memorial in New Jersey. Most vets don't even know we have a memorial up in Homedale. I don't know if Marco's ever been there.
I've been
Been
there.
there?
Well, I know because we
Rolling
ride up
Thunder.
there every September.
With Artie Mueller.
Freedom Ride.
You know-
with,
you know Artie
Rolling
Mueller?
Thunder.
But
Artie Mueller started Rolling
Right.
Thunder.
I
Yeah.
just want to touch back about the mothers going to Vietnam. How important it is for the mother to see where their little
Yeah, the
boy
closure.
was killed. So I'm in Italy, July 27, 1971. We got the dreaded phone call. My uncle was in his third tour in Vietnam, Uncle Dominic, Zio Domenico, and he was killed in Vietnam. My grandmother was my age then, 73 years old. She got my cousin Marco, and me, Marco. She says, you're taking me to the United States. I says, no. I said, okay, because my grandmother, she was a tough lady. So we went to the embassy in Rome.
The body recovery thing through this Veterans Initiative through Bill Jordan, it wasn't just for Vietnam vets. It was for Korean vets and World War II vets. Bill would send me photos of being in the gulags in Russia, recovering American remains, and they virtually married the women there and had families in these gulags. North Korea sent over, what was it, 2,500 to the gulags? Russia paid for them. If you could read the book called the POW MIA mission from Congress, tells you all these things. And then one year he sends me a helmet from Vietnam, and it was from an American soldier. My wife and I went to Woodbridge Center. We got a little gray, we didn't know what race the person, a little gray styrofoam head. We put a plaque, the unknown Vietnam soldier, and on Veterans Day we left it at the wall. So things like that you do to recognize people. But it's they recover remains from all over. And 2 years ago in my hometown, we have a street named after Paul Cybowski, who was shot down, right, a pilot in the Navy, in World War II, and Ho Chi Minh recovered him because Ho Chi Minh was our ally in World War II. He became our enemy because of France. And his remains, they never knew what happened to him. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, my friend's father got a call. I was with your brother when he died. 2 years ago, his nephew, who works for Silhai, the recovery thing, found the uncle's remains in Hawaii. And 2 years ago, they repatriated in South Plainfield at the home funeral. So it's things like that happen, from people pushing for the betterment for not just Vietnam War, Korea War, and World War II to go. Mm-hmm. And it's all done by DNA, preferably a woman. So it's interesting.
A lot of history here, Mike, huh?
It is.
I mean, the rest of the story, like poor Harvey used to
That's
say.
why we do this show.
Yeah,
I mean, so often back in the day when Commander Bill Butler and I had Veterans Matter radio show, especially around Veterans Day, it was always amazing to us how little they teach our children in school. They, they don't even get Veterans Day off anymore.
No, well, that's how I started my Vietnam show 36 years ago in my daughter's class. I have 3 children. My daughter, Mary, she was in this gifted history class, and I knew the teacher, same high school. So I went there with all these old slides I had from Vietnam that Kodak developed free. One of my crew members got free developing. And so I did a little old slide projector show, and it took off, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't solicit it, people call me. And so now my younger son taught me how to do PowerPoint, which was, thank you, Patrick. I have my daughter, Mary, my son, Joe Jr., and my son, Patrick. Patrick is a computer guy, and I'm a computer dummy. So it took many beatings over his father's head to get me to do this. And now I put these shows together. And the last one I did a couple weeks ago up in Glen Gardner honored 4 veterans from Vietnam. The one who was the crew chief on the Purple Fox helicopter, my friend Michael Zebro, who was one of the truck drivers in the Army across the DMZ, only armed with a rifle. You can't drive a truck and shoot a rifle. See the pictures of his trucks, right? Another guy from the Battle of Way City who took down the NVA flag, Walter Kazmarek, famous Marine, and a medic. And it was very interesting. And my friend John Paulus, who was in the Battle of LZ Loon outside of Quezon. So I honored them by collecting photos that they didn't know I could get off the internet from their units. And so as I did them, I would say, and here's John Paulus, and John would stand, and here's, Sal Siri.
Do you still do the?
I did it 3 weeks ago. It was my 252nd show. So anybody who wants a show, I do them free, guys.
I'll remember
My
that.
wife said I'd be, and I covered the living conditions and battle, and recovery and the bugs, you name it, I do it, and I love doing the bugs.
It's some high schools won't even let recruiters in.
No.
Yeah, well, before the COVID hit, especially when in World War II, the Korean guys, I used to bring them all in there. I mean, we used to have a great time. I go 15, 20 of them, veterans and everything.
Right.
Oh, my God, it was just great. It just, now, after the COVID, I don't know what's going to happen because a lot of things have changed in the last, you're on a school board, right?
No, I'm not.
No.
Oh, you're not? Okay. So a lot of things are going on that right now, I don't know how they're going to react to us anymore. But I'm going to share something with you, Joe, that you didn't know. You were there at the Tet Offensive.
Yep.
Well, guess what, Joe? I was there too. You know where I was, though?
Where?
On the flying bridge of a ship watching the invasion of Saigon with binoculars.
Well, Marco, even during COVID, last Veterans Day, Joe Carney still had the Veterans Breakfast. Instead of everyone going to mainland, last year she did one at Northfield American Legion.
Yeah, we could always do it. Yeah,
one
exactly,
at I think it was the Linwood Fire Hall.
Yeah.
And then the last one at the American Legion.
Yeah, you could be
Summer
creative,
Sport.
Now, I always tease the Marines. Now, being attached to the Marine Corps, when you got hurt, you went to a Marine Corps medevac station or the Marine Hospital in Da Nang called NSA. So in a January battle, I was shot, bayoneted twice, and blown up a couple times. Right? And still fought.
In that order, by the way.
In that order. 12 hours later, I get medevaced. I walked to the hospital in NSA. They put me in a coma, and I got basically shrapnel through my head, right through it, through my eye, above my right eye. So I wake up. I thought I was in heaven, first of all, and I thought I was back in the States. And I go, hi, where am I? And the guy next to me goes, Marines don't talk like that, But I go, but I'm not a Marine. And the nurse goes, you just got hit too hard, Right? 10 days later, I'm back in combat. The Marines never gave up anybody on a duster. You had to virtually be missing a part not to come back to my unit.
Well, you know,
We knew about it. We knew about it. They're going, you ain't leaving.
he was, messing with my bullet. It was in my arm still, right? And then and I kept on getting up, and he put a blanket on my face. Then they says, okay, we're going to send you out of the country. So they sent me to Japan, and they got the second operation and everything. And I remember, I'll never forget, Joe. I was sitting there on this little chair, like a swivel chair, and so was the doctor. And he put his hand on my knee. He says, son, you're going back to the world. Oh, my God, because I was terrified to go. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, once you leave combat like that, and my God, to go back, the very thought of it was terrifying to me. You know what I mean?
I was just so. My 5-man team was so used to combat on one of these crazy weapons that you really didn't think you could die. Because I want you to picture a weapon that has no lid on the turret, 4 guys up top, 2 guys stand to load it, and the driver, which I first was before I was a tank commander, has to open the front door and hand out ammo during combat. That's why the book says the Marines tagged us the last of the great fights.
Was this the way in from the front?
Up the top. That was where the ammo was, that big door. And then the last great gunfighters, the Marine captain, thought we were somebody from the OK Corral. Everybody I knew had a Purple Heart. Everybody had multiple Purple Hearts, but wouldn't leave the unit.
Joe, I got an email here from Robert from Galloway.
Okay.
Wanted
Hello,
me
Robert.
to ask you,
Go ahead.
would you do it again?
Absolutely. This sounds terrible. I miss the camaraderie. I'm blessed that my combat team, we talk to each other weekly. Weekly. I've talked to my friend Cleve Lanier today. I'll call my friend John tonight. Talk to my friend Don Wolf, because today my sergeant, Laurie DeRoche, got shot in the head. So you call each other on these crazy days, and you don't forget. And you always think everybody's birthday. We make sure everybody's safe. We don't want anybody to hurt themselves. So we're very close. We have a reunion every year. But what I missed the most, not just the camaraderie, the adrenaline rush.
You know,
I became a junkie with it. I didn't want to leave Vietnam. You don't want to leave your crew. You said, am I going to leave them? I know my friend Earl's going to be in charge next. Did I train him enough? Did I teach him enough? No one on my crew ever got killed. I was the only duster, one of the few, who saw 27 firefights and didn't get killed. Lost 5 dusters, RPGs and landmines, but they'd always give us a new one like nothing happened. But the adrenaline rush, ask Marco, even deep down inside, your genetic being.
And I'll go along with that. But to me, the guys that I served with, like Joe said, let me tell you, these were the cream of the crop of America. There was a kid, he was not even 19 years old. His name was Billy Norton. And he said to me, I was a new guy, new effort guy, they called us.
Yeah, you watch what you
He
say.
says, you don't take a right or left, you don't move, I'll punch you in the effing face, he said. And he became my buddy. And the bond that you built, it's in the field of battle. There's nothing like it. I can't even explain it.
Can't explain it. It's
it's
better when we hang up with each other, we tell each other we love you.
Yeah.
And it's. I mean, I talk to my friends weekly. It's unheard of. But here's what I like the most. There was no race, color, or creed. We were one. We were Americans.
No atheists in a battlefield.
There was,
believe me.
oh yeah, but still, my crew. I'm an Italian American. I had a guy named Earl. I'll just use his first name. Earl was from Texas. He was a Texan. That's all he knew, right? I had a Mexican named Benny. I had an African American named George, and things like that. We had a little bit of everybody, and I had an American Indian named Sam, and we were a little bit of everything. And I'm serious. We only had one mess kit. Most of the time, we ate C rations, and my wife and my big Italian family would send me all these great care packages. And my favorite was Libby's apples, baked apples in a can. And we put them in the frying pan. I'd cut them up. We had one spoon. No one wiped the spoon off. No one did nothing. You ate from the one spoon. At the end, the one spoon took the syrup. At the end, everybody stuck their tongue in that can. No one cared if you were black, Italian, Indian, Mexican, or anything. You were Americans. You were brothers in arms, and you stayed that way to this very day. And there
think-
was no such thing as religion. When a priest came or a minister came, you went to church.
Yeah.
Everybody, regardless of the religion, said an act of contrition to the Catholic priest.
Well, I'll tell you, the way I look at it, I think the love that we share among ourselves, the combat veterans I'm talking about, is like a love that a mother has for an infant child. That's the kind of love that we have. I mean, we treat each other with, because one minute we're talking, next minute he could be all over the tree or something like that. And, you know, we depend on each other for our lives, for our very survival.
Joe, let me ask you a question. What was it like when you came home?
Ooh. I came home on August 18th, 1968. I flew in from Fort Lewis, Washington. I landed in JFK. And the guy told me, walk out the airport, and you'll see a bus. Get on that bus will take you to the helicopter, and you'll land in Newark Airport. Back then, the old Newark Airport had a viewing platform. People could actually see you. And I called the night before. No one knew I was coming home. I called the night before because one of my friends said, Joe, you can't surprise him again. 'Cause I would just come home on leave. This is a little more serious. So I called my mother and father. I called my fiance, Nancy. I said, I'll be home tomorrow at 4:57 at Newark Airport. That thing touched down at 4:50. I had a brand new uniform. I had gone from 200 pounds to about 100, maybe 140. I thought I was cool. I had a new pair of sunglasses. I'm sitting there. I wouldn't get out of the helicopter. Everybody's getting out. The pilots go, soldier, you got to get out. And I'm seeing all these Italians up there. All these Italians up in the, oh my, I was frightened to death. I said, will they like me? Will they understand me? Or will I curse too much? So I got off the plane, and the door opened up, and everybody was now downstairs, and my father was waiting for me. My father had given me, Mark will know what this is, a scapula, right, that his mother gave him when he was in World War II.
Wow.
And I carried it in a little plastic bag in my pocket all through Vietnam. My father walked up to me, didn't say it, no hugs, no nothing. He put his hand out. I took it out of my wallet. I handed it to him, and then we hugged. Then I hugged my mother and my sister and my future wife. I was frightened to death. You know, and I came home. We had a big picnic. My mother had all this food for me. There was lasagna. There was hamburgers, hot. It was summertime. All this stuff. Anything I wanted, I had. The only thing I craved, which I'm addicted to, was Texas wieners. I was blessed that the South Plainfield Labor Day Parade, I came home a couple days before Labor Day, was in my name and honor. I rode in the parade with the mayor. And then all the phone calls started coming in. Baby burner, killer. My parents were horrified. They're looking at me like, did you do these things? I said, I didn't do any of those things, Ma.
Yeah.
I didn't do any. I'm a proud veteran. I did no atrocities or what you would think were atrocities. I said, yes, I killed people, many of them, more than you will ever know. I said, but, you know, I did nothing I'm ashamed of. But the calls, my parents had to make their phone unlisted back then. You know, then I was a draftsman. I was in the drafting business. I went to work. My boss, Mr. Hart, and I'll say his name, the SOB, treated me like crap. My wife had gone to work there because she thought it'd be nice we worked together. 3 months later, I was out of there. And I ended up in the steel business as a steelman in a welding business, which I ran and had for years. And no regrets. No regrets. Everybody has their own opinion of the veterans. I don't hate them for disliking it. It's their own beliefs. I just felt that they were a little cruel to the veteran.
Yeah.
Cruel.
Well,
Cruel.
what bothers me the most when I was in my teens, when my brother came back from Vietnam, and there was just a dark cloud over the whole country. Not because our people fighting in the war had done something wrong.
No,
It was all
the black umbrella.
propaganda that was
The black umbrella. You know, I had a few altercations when I came home, got in a little bit of trouble, and that ended quickly. My father made sure of that. But, you know, it's the only war in history that at the 6 o'clock news, they would show who died, and a mother would see their son's face on TV. You can't do that to a mother or a father. You can't.
and they crucified those people. They would march on their houses. Your son died for no reason.
That's why I said earlier we came home from a war to
A war. So I kept, for years, I didn't say anything. I would do this Agent Orange thing in the background. We didn't tell them. We studied 100,000 Americans, 100,000 New Jersey veterans. In fact, last year during COVID, my wife was thrilled when I finally shredded all the paper. I had all their IDs, everything. I had to shred it. It took weeks to get rid of it. And she still wants more to go. I have a cellar full of veteran stuff. I promise you, hon, I'll do it. And but you came home to a society. I don't need to get any more trouble. I need to be a good American and a good to my family and respect what people do and just, shrug it off. It took years for vets to this day. Some don't want to shrug it off. They were hurt so bad.
Right. I try to make it a point, and this is not self-serving by any means, just that like I said, I have a heart for Vietnam vets. And when we're out, my wife and I and the children, and I see a veteran, especially sitting there with a Vietnam veteran, I go and I get a gift card. Wherever
nice
I'm
of
at.
you.
And I'll go on behalf of my wife and I would like to thank you for your service and welcome home. And sometimes the tear at the corner, nobody's ever thanked them.
Yeah.
Well, because we've never really been acknowledged our sacrifices that we made for our nation. You have to realize they permeated all our society now. People that were against us, they're all over. Washington, they're your judges. They're all over. So
We were down in the Cape May for the first week of June, and we were at a restaurant down there. And we're not drinkers. My wife and I had some fancy drink, which was delicious for a change. And I go to pay the bill, and the waitress goes, "Somebody paid the bill for you at the bar." I said, "Who?" They go, "He already left." My wife and I are looking at each other, going, "She saw your hat."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh." My wife goes, "Isn't that nice?" You don't hear that anymore.
Once in a while you
You don't
get
hear
that.
that.
That's nice. It's not the money, obviously.
It's not the money.
It's the recognition.
Yeah, it's just the belated thank yous.
I'm going to relay a story here at talking about coming home. It was really, really bad. I spent 11 months in Charleston Naval Hospital when I came home. And I used to sneak out of the hospital. I had pajamas on. They used to call me Italian cowboy with the slippers because I sneak out of the hospital, go to nightclubs and everything. And the people were really, really great. But then back to Italy. I says, she says, "Well, fill it out." I says, "You fill it out." Because I was ignorant, young. And she filled it out. She says, "You think you signed it?" She signed the paper. 2 weeks later, I get an envelope full of papers. It was tickets from Charleston to Atlanta, Atlanta to New York, New York to Rome, Rome to my village, all paid for.
Really? You never told me that story, Marco?
Well, there's so many stories. So now I'm on a plane. I got my uniform. I got a cast from here to here, uniform. L'Americano, they said, a plane. No, I says, I was born in Italy. When I got to my village, L'Abruzzi, there was 40 cars at the railroad station, all the kids I went to school with. When I went to my house, my mother and everything, everyone in my village, 800 people, just about everyone came to my house to pay their respects.
Wow.
Okay? So to go from here to people, hated us, to go to that. And when I left, I'll never forget, I left my train. All my friends came in cars with flags and everything, American flags. They were beating it. It was like in a movie scene. I'm leaving on a train, and I'm leaving all my friends behind. That was what an experience that was.
Well, see, when you do a history like that, we didn't get the welcome home. Thank God Marco did. But everybody, we'll go back to World War II. Everybody thinks all World War II veterans got welcomed home with these parades. Only the first wave.
Yeah.
Everybody else came home like we did.
Yeah.
On a bus, on a train. Yeah. Some had a plane or a ship and hitchhiked home or took a taxi home and just walked into their house because there was no communications back then.
Yeah.
Half the people didn't even have a phone or electricity. I talked because I'm the state commander for the Purple Hearts for years, doing it for years, and I talked to a lot of World War II and Korean War vets. None of them, except for the initial group, got a welcome home. They just came home.
16 million came home. That's why
they came home. They just came home.
Let me ask you a question. When you see what's happening today in Afghanistan, and thinking back to 1975, what happened
In Vietnam.
in Vietnam, what goes through your mind?
It's a political catastrophe. I don't know how else to explain it. What it's doing is not just making a catastrophe for the soldiers and people there. It's a catastrophe of how the America United States is perceived worldwide. Just like when Vietnam ended, it wasn't as bad because the communication back then was primitive compared to what you have now. You know, everybody has a cell phone, everybody has an iPad, everybody has a computer, everybody has a TV. So what happens is the press magnifies things, sometimes to the good, but most of the time to the bad. So what's happening to us, we're just further dividing our country, because now it'll make the political parties, and I'm not political at all, it'll make the political parties even that much further apart. And then it'll make the races that much further apart. Then it'll make the Afghanistans who come here untrusted because people will think they're Al Qaeda.
Well, more important,
And it'll go crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it is being like what they did. These people coming over be like the American Indian getting crucified. It's sad. It's sad.
so the consequences of this are so deep. It's just incredible. You know what this kind of when our enemies like China, North Korea, Iran, when they see these kind of things, it emboldens them. Like, you know, they want to, you know, now they think they can attack Israel. Well, America's not going to back them up. Taiwan, well, you know, America's not. We lose our credibility. You know, it's just like when you were kids who get in a fight, you see some guy 6'2" and two of his friends. You know, you're a little guy. You're not going to start a fight with him. But if you think you could,
We lost power.
exactly, the perception. I mean, we have power, but we don't utilize it. Number one, you know, that's
They're
another
afraid
thing.
to utilize it.
Yeah. See, you know, it started with Korea, and that's when we started this. We're more afraid to win the war than to lose one, okay? Because they don't let us use, you know, the force that we need to affect the win.
Correct. Just like Vietnam.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, when I first got there, you weren't allowed to shoot at the enemy till he shot at you.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple guys get executed on a duster. They got captured, and it's called summarily executed. I won't even tell you what the enemy did to them. And our colonel came out, Colonel John House. He goes, "You can shoot any time you want, and there is no such thing as a prisoner."
Yeah. We're in the Ashall Valley, so we don't have to worry about that.
Well, you know,
Anything that moves, we kill.
you guys should be pretty proud. There's up on YouTube where this is being
I know.
It's a
filmed.
good idea, man.
There's
It's
some
a good idea.
comments
No,
up
you're
there
right.
from
I agree with you,
some
especially
of our
right now.
listeners that you
Yeah.
guys should
Yeah.
do a show together.
Yeah, I
It's,
agree with you.
You know, it's first of all, it's an honor
Yeah.
to be here. Believe me when I say this. You know, I'm very nervous about being in front of anybody sometimes, you know, because things have been twisted in the past. But I thank you for the privilege and the honor to talk forthright about what's happening. And the questions you asked were fabulous. You know, Marco and I have been talking about this for months and years. But it's, I want everybody out there, when you see a veteran, just tell them thank you. That's all you got to say is thank you for your service. Thank you for my freedom. You have no idea, John Doe public, what you have until you see it taken away from you, until you see what they call mountain yard villagers in Vietnam get killed and genocide practice on them because they weren't liked and the America tried to save them. And we couldn't. Just thank a veteran.
You know, Joe, Al and I, for 20-some years, did sideline photography, locker room interviews in NFL, NFC East teams, and up in Philadelphia for the Phillies. And, you know, that our heroes aren't between the white lines. And we changed our focus and got more involved in advocating for veterans. And I want both of you to know that how much I appreciate your sacrifices, because I know that every freedom and every liberty that my family and myself enjoys is because of the sacrifices that our veterans have done. I'll never
See,
forget
we're
that.
Americans, and everybody forgets that we are one. I don't care your race, color, creed. I don't care where you come from. But when you come to this country, you better consider yourself an American. I'm an Italian-American descendant, and my grandfather and grandmother said, Giuseppe, you have to talk English and be an American. And I was already a citizen. I'm born here. But they made sure my parents, my uncles and aunts were educated, got an education, learned English, became citizens if they weren't citizens, and became proud Americans and served their country. I'm not asking for everybody to serve, but I want everybody to remember this. All the military is volunteers.
Yeah.
There is no draft. So everybody you see out there dying for what you don't think is your freedom, oh, they're in Afghanistan, they're not doing anything for my freedom. Have those Afghanistan idiots come here and blow up another World Trade Center or something worse. Blow your family up. Then you'll see what it's like to be an American. Until you see a fellow American wounded, whether it's on the battlefield or the parking lot of ShopRite or the World Trade Center, you have no idea what the taste of freedom is.
God bless.
Until you
Almost
think you're
done,
gonna
Mike?
lose it.
Is that what you're
Yep.
saying?
Well, one of the things I want to do before
Yeah.
we close this show today is I want to thank the people who put in a lot of time and effort to make this happen. This is different than radio broadcasts because there isn't a lot of people out there that are proficient at this.
Yeah.
And I want to, first off, my buddy Al and I have been friends for over. John Serbin, who is the associate pastor at New Life Church in Egg Harbor Township, and especially Kyle Johnson, who does the sound and all the technician work for Coastal Christian. And Kyle bailed us out big time.
Yes.
You have no idea.
Yes, I do,
Live
because-
stream is different.
Yeah.
And when you add in taking calls, which nobody does,
Yeah.
mostly live stream is churches and politics.
Right.
So
And
doing
fishing
this
shows.
and getting this together, I
Well, I want to compliment everyone because you did a great
It was
job.
a wonderful experience, gentlemen. A wonderful. I'm glad Marco called me. I hope we can do this again sometime.
And you guys
It
are
was
welcome.
great.
If you
It
have
was great.
something if there's something important going on that you want to come down and talk about, you have my email and my phone number. I'd be glad to have you on.
I would like to, on my part, on behalf of New Jersey Military Order of the Purple Heart, thank my ex-commander over here, Marco Polo, my Purple Heart representative of the South, for inviting me, Michael and Al for having me. And I would like to dedicate this program to a recently deceased veteran. His name was Bernard Fox. On September 27th, he would have been 102. He passed away this past Tuesday.
World War II veteran.
World War II veteran, a true American hero, and one of the nicest gentlemen you want to meet. No living relatives.
And before we sign off, I just want to do a moment of silence for the 13 servicemen that were killed in Afghanistan, and for all of our listeners to just take a moment of silence on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we would like to sign off and let you know that we will be meeting here every Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m. If you are a veteran and you want to participate in this show, you're welcome to email me or Facebook message me. My email address is irskill@aol.com. And of course, you can always get me by inboxing on Facebook. I do want to let my listeners know, especially if you're a veteran or active duty military, that Facebook is not in your corner. When I put on this post that I was having this veterans live stream broadcasts, and I put my guest's name out there. Facebook actually locked me out of my
Oh
page.
my God.
It's a sad world we live in today, but we wouldn't have the freedoms and the liberties if it wasn't for our veterans. So thank you very much for tuning in.
A little bit of everything.